Hi, I'm Edie Hand, and welcome to Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with my good friend, Dr. Daniel Potts. Hey, Danny.
Hey, Edie, how are you?
I'm great today. You know, we're talking about a topic we women don't much like to talk about, osteoporosis.
I know, but you know, we need to be talking about that because it's so important and so common.
Yes.
Osteoporosis, or thinning of the bones, is very, very common in women, and it can even happen in men. And things like exercise and vitamin D and sunlight can help prevent osteoporosis from doing its damage.
Well, Dr. Gary Russell is going to be joining us to tell us some things that we really need to be doing other than just that. And they're also opening a clinic for early detection. You know, that younger women are finding they have osteoporosis.
Absolutely. You know, if it runs in your family, you're more likely to get it, and you need to be doing something about it if possible.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to have a great show today, and aren't you ready to get into it?
Yes, let's go.
All right, stay with us. We've got some great things coming up next.
If you woke up with pain this morning, you are not alone. Estimates are that nearly 1/3 of Americans will experience chronic pain at some point in their lives. Optimal Pain Control by Franklin Pharmacy works directly with your physician to create a pain cream for your unique needs. Our staff of pharmacists has over 30 years experience in compounding. OPC by Franklin Pharmacy's custom formulas are created for you to maximize pain relief while minimizing side effects. From minor aches to severe neuropathic pain, let us be your partner.
You're watching Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts.
Joining me in the studio is Dr. Gary Russell, who's an orthopedic surgeon. And thank you, Dr. Russell, for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me, Edie.
Well, you know, I've thought about a lot that you've also been at Southern Orthopedics, right, for a number of years?
Yes, ma'am, for 16 years.
16 years. Like I say, you guys like each other a lot then if you hang out that long.
We're like brothers. We are.
Well, tell us a little bit about you. What was your passion that got you into orthopedic?
Well, I was originally a gymnast at Jacksonville State University and got interested in athletic training. As I got further into it, actually got interested also into exercise physiology, which took me to LSU to work on a master's in exercise physiology. And the short story is that God called me to go into orthopedics at that time, and so I changed everything that I was doing and started working toward another degree, and then got into medical school and then orthopedic residency.
You know, you said that you felt led in that, and I think all of us that if we go through different things in our lives, that our faith can certainly lead us down the path if we really listen to what's just right for us, because I can see you're excited about what this has done for you in your life.
Absolutely. It's essentially answering the call of your life. And that's really what you want to do in life, is to answer the call that you have.
Your purpose.
Your purpose, and try to exercise the gifts that you have.
Well, you know, we're talking about osteoporosis. What is osteoporosis really, to define maybe perhaps for those that don't understand what is osteoporosis?
Well, simply osteoporosis is thin bone disease, and it is actually more rampant than we really think. It affects many more people than you would think. When you look at the statistics, you actually see that 10 million people have osteoporosis.
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. And then in addition to that, there's another 34 million that have low bone mass. So we're talking about a group of people just in this country of 44 million people.
Wow, right in this community. You know, you think about in the state of Alabama, in this community of how many people really know. What do they need to do to maybe, can you prevent having osteoporosis? Or is this genetic totally?
Well, it's actually multifactorial. There is some genetic components, so that let's say that you're a woman around 50 years of age, and if your mother or your grandmother had osteoporosis, then you certainly have a higher risk. The other factors that are involved in osteoporosis are different medications that you may take that may affect your ability to absorb calcium. It may be that some of the habits you've picked up in tobacco use, excessive alcohol use, the fact that you may be a white Caucasian woman puts you at risk, that you're less than 127 pounds puts you at risk. So there are a number of factors there, and it's something that you really have to go through a full medical history to figure out what your risk factors are.
You know, and I think that's probably what our general public doesn't really understand today, and maybe we could educate them, or some things that, tips or some things that we might could help people today. What could we tell them, or they just need to see their physician?
Well, I think the first thing is just thinking about those risk factors that I just talked about. You know, if you're a thin white woman and you're postmenopausal, then you definitely have a risk by the guidelines of the National Osteoporosis Foundation of having osteoporosis. And so National Osteoporosis Foundation has a wonderful website. It's just put in capital NOF on the web, and the National Osteoporosis Foundation website will come up, and it talks about risk factors you can read about in very plain and simple language. It talks about the prevention. It talks about the incidence, how many people actually have it, who those people that are at risk would be, how much calcium you need to take in your diet, how much vitamin D, all those things. Very comprehensive website.
Right, and we'll get into that a little bit later too on the diet, which is very important too. But now you have a website too for the practice, you guys. Who are the other physicians, in case people would like to know who's there?
Well, Southern Orthopedics is made up of Dr. Casey Vague, Dr. Jeff Cuomo, he's our new partner, Dr. Mark Prevost, here's our spine surgeon, and then myself.
You know, to me, if they wanted to call you, what do you know the number there, the best number for them to call you, or a website?
Yeah. Yes, the telephone number is 205-221-5374.
Okay, and the website is?
And the website is southernortho.org.
Well, to me, because today, you know, not everybody out there is tech savvy to get it, but I think this is great that they can call, they can go to websites, and like you said, if you want to learn more about it, you probably have pamphlets at the office that people could learn more about it.
Absolutely. We have pamphlets. We have pamphlets to hand them on treatment, on risk, prevention, etc.
And, you know, I was thinking, we were talking about women that were over 50 and that, and especially we think about with kids. Has this ever appeared in kids?
Well, you actually do see some osteoporosis in younger people than you would really think. The example here, I think, probably was by a professor of mine that actually went to Mexico for a little while. And in the hospital in Mexico City, which is, of course, a massive city, he was seeing that they had approximately 6 to 10 hip fractures admitted every day. And the reason that they had so many hip fractures down there was because of malnutrition. In other words, the people weren't actually getting enough calcium and vitamin D in their diet, and so they were having hip fractures much earlier than we see them in our country. So it brings up the fact that a certain risk factor is that if young children don't drink milk, they don't eat yogurt, dairy products, and those type of things, that you actually need to supplement their diet with calcium and vitamin D intake. Kids that sit in the house, that don't get out in the sunlight a lot, those people also need to be supplemented, because you build your skeleton by the time you're 20 years old. And that's all you get. And after that, there is no more that you can build. You either maintain or lose your bone mass.
Well, in that, I was just thinking too, how important is it for us as parents that we should really start thinking about that in our own children's diets? Even I remember thinking myself, even when my son was born, how important it was that they be breastfed. You know, we were told, just start immediately when your child to get all these right nutrients in their body. Is that a myth, or is that important?
No, it's very important. The calcium and vitamin D intake, like I said before, actually, when they're a kid, they're building their skeleton. And so if there's an issue with diet, then they're going to be at risk for osteoporosis sooner in their life than they normally would be. Again, there are other risk factors such as genetics, what race they're from, and their body size.
Well, is there some statistics of different things of that? Anything that we need to know about that you know?
Well, I mean, yeah, at the beginning of the segment, I talked about 10 10 million Americans have osteoporosis, and another 34 million have decreased bone substance. So not only does it affect a tremendous number of people around us, but that there are estimates that as our population ages, that by the year 2025, there will be close to listen to this, $25 billion spent on treating osteoporosis-related fractures.
You're watching Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts. We'll be back in a moment. Enjoy the latest books from Edie Hand. A portion of sales benefit charities such as St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Visit www.ediehandfoundation.org or your local or online bookstore. Pick up your copies today. You're watching Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts.
Well, I think people have learned a lot tonight about osteoporosis, and I want to thank you for that. You know, it's important for us too, we touched on about diet and exercise and what is osteoporosis, but how do people really come in for testing on this?
Well, obviously we talked earlier about opening up an osteoporosis clinic, which is right in the planning. We'll open that in the summer, where we'll have a clinic once a week dedicated just to osteoporosis and to the evaluation. But the way the process will work essentially is that you'll call for an appointment, come in for the osteoporosis clinic specifically. And when you come in, we'll do a full history to make sure that we look at all of the risk factors that you may have, down to every medicine that you're taking, which ones affect your calcium absorption, which ones may affect your vitamin D. We'll talk about what type of diet you have, what type of exercise you have. And then subsequently, we'll then, if it's indicated, you'll actually have a test called a DEXA scan. We have a DEXA scanner and kind of the gold standard.
What is that? What is
a DEXA scanner is actually a machine. Takes about 10 minutes. You just lay on a table. It's completely painless, and it actually measures the density of your bones. The important thing that we found is that you look at the spine itself, and then you look at the hip bones. Those are great indicators of whether you have a low bone mass situation or whether you actually have the disease that we call osteoporosis.
Well, that's good. I know with testing too, is there some things that we also need to be doing, like for our treatment options, or how do we learn about that?
Well, and that kind of takes us down the next step down the road, is that, if you do have low bone mass, if you have osteoporosis, of course, those will be going in different directions. But if you do require treatment, there are treatments, of course, that you can use drugs for if you just have low bone mass, and of course, those are a spectrum of disease. Then we may change the amount of calcium that you're getting. We'll check vitamin D levels on you. We'll talk to you about weight-bearing exercise, the type of things that, and of course reversing some of the risk factors that you may have, whether if you're a smoker or some of the other risk factors that we've talked about earlier.
Well, I mean, that with risk factors and that, so what would they need to do? Like if they were smoking, obviously they need to stop, but what if they've been smoking for a number of years?
Right,
then
absolutely we would do a DEXA scan, and we would look at that value to tell us, do you need treatment or not need treatment? And those parameters are set forth by the National Osteoporosis Foundation, World Health Organization. They have parameters that tell us this person needs treatment.
If you brought someone like myself in, or someone that was concerned, say they were in their 60s like myself, what would be the first thing that I would do with you? What would be the first thing?
First thing, again, we do a full history on you to see, did your mother have an osteoporotic fracture? Did your grandmother have an osteoporotic fracture? Are there risk factors in your life? And of course, we have a big long list of risk factors. We'll go through every one of your medicines and say, hey, gee, did you realize that Prilosec decreases your calcium absorption, therefore you have a higher risk of osteoporosis?
And even know your medicine could be affecting you like that.
Absolutely. It really is shocking when you start looking at the list of medicines that actually can affect your bone mass. Very commonly given medicines, Nexium is a very common medicine, Prilosec, Prevacid, all these things for stomach upset, acid problems. Even someone who doesn't even take prescription medicines, let's say that they take antacids a lot because they have a lot of heartburn. Those antacids block the uptake of their calcium and therefore can give them a risk factor of osteoporosis, and they don't know it.
See, I mean, well, I didn't know that for a fact, and that's a good tip. But I've never had a lot of antacid, but that's very good to know for people, I think.
Let me give you one more because I see a lot of people that come into clinic on antidepressants. Antidepressants like Prozac, Lexapro, those actually are risk factors. Those medicines do lead to some extent of osteoporosis.
That's where we need to not be afraid to ask questions or to come in and see our physician, because it could literally give us a better quality of life in our season time.
Absolutely. People don't realize, and we talked earlier in the program, that a hip fracture can be completely devastating to your life. We know that 20% of the people over 50 years old that have a hip fracture die in the first year after their hip fracture. 20%. That's an amazing statistic.
It is an amazing
when you start
statistic.
talking about that there are 300,000, between 250 and 300,000 hip fractures per year in the United States. That affects somebody in almost every community.
Absolutely.
You're watching Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts. We'll be back in a moment.
Southern Orthopedics specializes in all aspects of orthopedic care, from preventative medicine to corrective surgery. We offer the latest advancements in orthopedics, like our open MRI. With a commitment to excellence, Southern Orthopedics received the 2007 Orthopedic Care Excellence Award as awarded by Health Grades Hospital Quality. Our well-respected physicians bring 60 years of combined experience to their patients and the community. Southern Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Associates in Jasper.
You're watching Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts.
But men don't like to go to doctors.
No, men don't like to go to doctors. But the good thing about an osteoporosis screening is it's essentially painless. We're not going to, if we get a vitamin D level on you, which a lot, depending on your risk factors, we may do that. That would be the only needle stick that you get. And usually those are done at outpatient labs and stuff, and we would send you for that. So we're still the nice guys. We don't stick you with any needles. Basically what we do is we use the information that's available that we know about osteoporosis, and we use that to evaluate you very thoroughly, decide whether you need testing or not, and then once we have that test, then decide, do you need treatment? And when I say treatment, I mean pharmacologic treatment. As I alluded to earlier.
Yeah, to explain that a little bit in layman's terms.
There are different kinds of treatments that are out there, and as I alluded to earlier, it's just an incredible time in orthopedics and in bone health to be practicing medicine, because we have so many options. There are drugs out there that everything from nasal sprays to basic pills you take once a week to pills that you take once a month to even an aggressive treatment actually involves an injection every day, like a little small diabetic injection that actually stimulates your bones to build. And then there's a brand new one out on the market that actually it's kind of an antibody to certain things in the bone that help the bone stay strong, and it's like one shot every 6 months.
That's like helping us with our skeleton, we as women, because if that starts to bend over, that frame, is that going to help us in the older age if you have the osteoporosis and you don't bend over?
Treatment is key. You want to be screened, and you want to have treatment before you realize that you've got a hump on your back and you're leaning over toward the floor and your back hurts, or you fall and break your wrist, and realize that when you're evaluated, the surgeon looks at you and goes, wow, you have osteoporosis and you're 60 years old. We need to figure out why you have this, and then design a treatment plan, whether it's a pharmacologic or drug type treatment versus just diet, exercise, and calcium supplementation.
I think that's terrific. I mean, the main thing is that to give hope to women out there that are like myself, that any of you out there, to think about, if you have osteoporosis, this is a place you need to come to, is a clinic that can help you make a difference and give you peace of mind. I think, Dr. Russell, that's the thing, is that we want to have peace of mind today, and that's what you're going to be able to give to a lot of women, as well as men, that, like you said, men are affected by osteoporosis, right?
Yes, they are.
What percentage is that?
It's a pretty low percentage, and it's just because of the difference in hormones that men have that women don't have.
Yeah, blame it on our hormones.
They cause a lot of problems. This happens to be one of them. And unfortunately, this one is a loss of the hormone, which leads to a loss of the support of the skeleton and a rapid decline right after menopause. So it brings up one thing I really haven't mentioned during this, that if you're a young lady and for some reason have to have your ovaries removed, then you are at a very early risk of developing osteoporosis because you've lost your estrogen source. And if you're not being supplemented with estrogens, then we certainly need to thoroughly
Is that under
evaluate
age of
you.
35?
Absolutely. I've actually had women who came in the office that said that they had an emergency hysterectomy, ovaries had to be removed in their 20s, and I see them in their 40s for a wrist fracture, and they have osteoporosis and need treatment at 40 years of age.
But this is great, though, that you have the treatments that can help make their seasoned life better.
Absolutely, because it should give you hope that even though we know this is a very prevalent disease and it affects so many people in this country, it doesn't have to. And I think
That's good to know.
As we start focusing in on this problem and we start educating parents about their children's diet, parents about the children's nutrition, then we'll see in many, many years to come that there'll be less people affected by osteoporosis.
That's like, as my oncologist would have said, that's one of the things that he said, I wish you'd put me out of business. I wish they'd find a cure, and I know you wish that there's things that could be done that you wouldn't have to work so hard, but we all need each other, and I'm so glad to know that there's someone like you in the community that has such great values.
Well, Edie, we've had a great show today about bone health and osteoporosis and how you can minimize your risk.
We sure have, Dr. Potts, and we hope that our viewers will tune in next week when we'll have more from Prescription for Healthy Lifestyles right here with Edie Hand and Dr. Daniel Potts.